Let's talk about Brann's treasures and hero powers.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
That's right, the final wing and the final wing of the Tombs of Terror are almost here, which means Brann will be unlocked, and you'll need to have some guidance for his signature treasures and hero powers, and I've got some thoughts on which of these are going to be the best and which ones are going to be the worst. That said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting off with his hero powers, first up here I have Well Equipped as the weakest of the hero powers, even though this is one you have to unlock. I do not think it's very reliable. There are a lot of bad weapons that can be equipped with this, so even though you're only spending 2 mana, getting a 1/1 weapon, for instance, without any sort of effect is really disappointing, and sometimes you'll even get 0 attack weapons. So the few occasions where you get like a Gore Howl that's amazing, that makes up for all those bad ones, are not worth it. You spend 2 mana to do virtually nothing in a Tombs of Terror run, and you're going to have a bad time. So I think this hero power can actually actively hurt you more than it helps you, which means it is far and away the weakest option. Next up here I have Spreadshot, which deals 1 damage to something, and then 1 damage to the enemy hero as well. So if you ping the enemy face, it's 2 damage, kind of like a base hunter hero power. You can also ping your own minions, which has some intriguing synergies, particularly in the 4th wing of Tombs of Terror, which is why I really like Spreadshot. Also, with any sort of enrage or on damage style effect, Spreadshot can do a lot of work with your own minions. So a ping with some chip damage or some high synergy stuff. And there's some really high synergy stuff. So I almost gave this one the nod for the first spot on hero powers, but it's only great in certain wings. It doesn't have quite as much universality as our best hero power, which is Dino Tracking, which allows you to discover a card instead of drawing one at the start of your turn. And when you're in a Tombs of Terror run with all kinds of awesome stuff in your deck, that means you can select not only things that are at the mana cost that you need, but also just often help you finding your most powerful cards, your treasures, etc. So that is a huge upside, even though it doesn't do anything active in the game. The fact that you have so much choice and decision making allows you to make some really big plays, find your best stuff, find your combos, and that is so powerful that you absolutely just can't underestimate it. It's a free tracking every time with no sort of discard punishment like the default tracking card. So Dino Tracking is absolutely wonderful and will certainly help you succeed more than the rest. So now let's move on to the signature treasures, starting off with Brann's Saddle here. This is a 2 mana spell that's kind of like the old Explorer's Hat card that gives a friendly beast +3/+3. And when that minion dies, it will then give Brann's Saddle to another friendly beast that's on board, not in your hand. That's the big distinction there to Explorer's Hat. But the problem with a card like this is you have to have multiple beasts on board for this one to chain successfully, which can be somewhat difficult to do. It's not like you're only a hunter as Brann, you're also a warrior, and there are some beasts in warrior, but still a limited number, which means keeping a steady, healthy supply of beasts on board is pretty tough. Now, in and of itself, it is just a +3/+3 buff with some upside, which is really good for 2 mana, but not quite comparable to the sorts of things you can do with these other signature treasures, which I think have far more upside in general. And that includes the base signature treasure for Brann. This is Old Faithful, and it's a 3 mana 4/2 weapon, which is really solid stat line for weapon. It also reads after hero attacks, deal 1 damage to all enemies. And that's pretty cool. So that's 5 damage to the face right off the bat if you want it, because that 1 damage stacks on top of the 4. Other than that, it can be a really neat little AoE style effect, chipping away some stuff with some pings or whirlwinds, and then also hitting something larger if needed, which makes this a very valuable early game tempo tool that is more consistent than our previous signature treasure, even though it may not have quite as much upside. Up next here is the Titan Forged Grapnel 3 mana spell that destroys 2 random enemy minions, which can be a nice little swing if you do fall behind. Then you also gain armor equal to their combined attack. When things, say like in Wing 3, can get up to like 50 attack because of all the crazy hand buff shenanigans that Plague Lord has, this could be amazing, right? Destroy a couple things and get like 100 armor in the process. Now, it's not usually going to do that, and it depends on the wing how powerful this can be, but there's still a lot of upside to very efficiently deal with your opponent's stuff, play something in return, gain a little bit of health in a pinch if you need it, all of which are handy things to do, and give this card a fair bit of upside for a one-time use sort of card. This one's pretty solid. Next up here we have the Junior Excavator, which of course you'll be able to upgrade to a Senior Excavator eventually, which we'll talk about more in a moment. It's a 4 mana 2/5 that draws you 3 cards, and any minions you draw cost 2 less. So unfortunately a fairly weak body and cost on this minion at a base level. You're not going to be happy to play a 2/5 in most cases, but you can net so much mana advantage off these cards drawn that it's almost like the Junior Excavator is free over the course of a couple turns, because you're going to be able to realize those discounts. Hopefully, even if you don't draw minions, you're still drawing 3 cards, which is pretty amazing for 4 mana in its own right, and then attached to a body, that's great. So, solid way to just keep moving through your deck, finding treasures. Drawing cards is amazing in Tombs of Terror because you have so many good overpowered things in your deck, and discounts are great too. So Junior Excavator is a pretty solid play anytime he's an option. But he's not quite as good as the Senior Excavator. This guy's got a bit longer beard, a little more age on him, and he gets upgraded to a 3/6, a much more reasonable stat line for 4 mana, and now the cards drawn of their minions cost 5 less, which are enormous discounts. That's 15 possible mana discounted here from your Senior Excavator, making this a much, much more significant swing style card. You can dump all kinds of big stuff. Now, again, it is a little bit restricted from a deck building standpoint. If you have too many spells, this might just whiff. Drawing 3 cards is good, but if you don't get the discounts, you're going to be pretty sad. So this is specific to certain kinds of deck building, perhaps even certain kinds of wings that reinforce that style of deck building. But if you can line all that up, the Senior Excavator certainly offers you a very powerful play when he hits the board. Next up here, we have Flowslate Brann, a 2-mana 4/4, ridiculous stat line there to get the game started, and her effects are amazing too. Battlecry and Death Rattle add a random treasure to your hand. So these are not the Heist Baron Togwaggle style treasures. These are actual dungeon run treasures. If you play this, you can get like Canopic Jars, for instance, and get a bunch of random legendary minions. So there are some very powerful plays off of Flowslate Brann, and she certainly doesn't feel bad to play herself. Even if you top deck her late in the game, she's so cheap that you can often utilize some of these treasures immediately as well, which gives her even more upside. So all in all, the fact that you get 2 treasure cards, a solid, cheap, flexible minion, all of that is absolutely incredible and makes Slow very, very powerful. But despite that, there's one card I think is even better. It's Brann's Epic Egg, a 6 mana 0/5, and after it takes damage, it summons King Crush. And that is absolutely absurd. And I can tell you from a little bit of experience, as you guys know, I've been doing videos for Blizzard on the Tombs of Terror, so I've already been playing with this one a little bit. It's not hard to get multiple King Crushes out of this over the course of any given game, particularly if you use the hero power that has the ping enabled. You can spend 2 mana to summon a King Crush. The only real downside to Brann's Epic Egg is that it does come out fairly late in the game at 6 mana, but it can be so powerful when it does, offer so much pressure, so much raw damage, so many stats, that it's still worth it. Like, even if this just takes a trade a single time and summons you 1 King Crush, keep in mind that's still a 6 mana King Crush, which is pretty sweet. And the fact that you can synergize your deck with all kinds of whirlwind effects and Blood to Ichors and hero powers and On the Hunts and all these amazing cards means you're going to get a lot of King Crushes out of this one over the course of a run, making it, I think, slightly better than our previous option and the best of Brann's signature treasures. And there you go. That's it for Brann's signature treasures. He's a pretty fun hero to play, I think, in the Tombs of Terror. So good luck out there utilizing all these insanely fun cards. He has maybe some of the coolest signature treasures, I think, of all the heroes, and maybe hero powers too. It must be that beard that makes him so darn awesome. That said, if you guys have thoughts on these, of course, share your thoughts, share your takes. Even if you're watching this later after the wings have come out, you've got some experience under your belt. Share your learning, share your knowledge here. I'm certainly not the be-all, end-all of good ideas, so that's what the comments are for. That said, I hope you did enjoy watching this. I hope you'll drop the sub. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging around these parts, and until next time, game on.